Oyez! 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 Pray silence for Councillor Peter Clements!
God, that was good, wasn't it? You want to get down again,
You carry on. I think got down the...
Mr. Chairman JJ, Mr. Mayor, Lady Mayoress, Borough and Town Councillors, and all of you here. And what a wonderful crowd you are too, may I say. I was going to say a very warm welcome. Well, I hope it is that for you. It'll certainly get rather warmer at about 7 o'clock. And if you're on that side, you might have to move. But I'm sure you'll notice. Many people have been involved in the construction of this monument and indeed the ceremony this evening. And we would be very remiss if we didn't draw your attention to them. But as there's a lot, please don't clap until I tell you to. The great ash post was prepared and supplied by Richard Watcham and his team from Maydays for a knockdown price, and the carving down the face of the beacon was beautifully chipped out by Steve Vince, which says, "A beacon for peace." The fire basket was constructed by Adam Ferretti, and I think he's here somewhere, from Ferretti Iron and Paint Works, and placed in position by Simon and Bart from Peter Clark's Boatyard. And I must also thank Jeff Pearce, who was around every time I needed help, which was a lot. We must also thank Colchester Borough Council, who donated the site, that little bit there. But they also gave us some money towards the erection cost. But most of all, many, many thanks to the islanders who contributed to the fund for the construction and also towards this evening. With the help of Mersea Island Lodge and the Strood Charity and many of you, the whole cost has been entirely covered. You may clap. Before we get to those involved this evening, I'd also like to mention the remarkable art that you see down on the Strood, the 50 wonderful servicemen. It was the brainchild and construction of Duncan Pittick, and I think he deserves a cheer. This evening's ceremony, I'd like to thank the Mersea Island Fire Brigade under the leadership of Jonathan Mussett, who's here to make sure we don't set light to the beach huts. The Mersea Island Lions for not only supplying ropes, posts, cones and all sorts of stuff, but acting as marshals to keep you safe on this dark night. The Mersea School, and in particular Mrs. Jane Barnes, for helping to rehearse and organise the children. Jay Stapley, Brian Bolton and our dear Mayor for helping with sound and light. The Two Sugars is open this evening. It's open now, with warm refreshments and hot soup and stuff for afterwards, and they're donating a fair proportion of their takings tonight to the Poppy Appeal. So do go and see them afterwards. And we must also thank the players in tonight's ceremony, our newly elected, well perhaps coerced, James McNaughton as our town crier, Parade Marshal Chippy Woods and the Legion Standard Bearers, Piper John Young, who had several engagements today, starting at 6:30 this morning, and he's come over from Whittam specially to play for us. The Mersea Island school children, both past and present, and some will be carrying stones at this ceremony to mark for their own relations. Also, most particularly, Mr. Godfrey Thomas, our narrator of the Roll of Honour. Godfrey has been working with the children entirely voluntarily over the past 4 years, telling them a story every day of something that happened during the Great War on that date. So it's tremendous, and he will read to you a remarkable story this evening. Then we have our young trumpeter, Tom Brown, who's going to play last post. And then the chairman of the Essex County Council will, I hope, light the beacon. And then also the church bells ringers from West, East, Peldon and Wigborough, which will all ring at 7:05, and I hope our timing is right to get to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let this ceremony begin with the Standards and John Young, who will pipe the traditional Scottish tune, "The Battle is Over." Thank you.
They shall not grow old, that we are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
This is the roll of the Mersea Island servicemen lost in the Great War. Ralph Cutts Avis was lost at sea when his ship, the cruiser Mersea, was torpedoed in the North Sea on the 22nd of September 1914, the first casualty. He is named on the Chatham Naval Memorial. Thomas Funnell was drowned on the same day when his ship, the cruiser Abukir, was sunk by a torpedo also in the North Sea. His name is recorded on the Naval Memorial at Portsmouth. Frederick Musset died of bronchial pneumonia whilst on active service on HMS Pyramus. He was buried at sea, and like most lost sailors, is commemorated on land memorials, in his case, the one at Chatham. Hugh Smith, of the Essex Battalion, was wounded in the Gallipoli campaign of 1915. After repatriation to England and recovery, he rejoined his regiment in northern France, where he was killed at Vermelles on his first day back on duty. Frederick Bennett of Kingsland Road was trained as a paramedic and went with the Royal Engineers to Vimy Ridge, where he was working with teams involved in tunnelling operations when he was killed. Roland Cook, who had won the Round the Island running race on Boxing Day 1913, was wounded at the Battle of Loos in 1915. He recovered, only to lose his life on the third day of the Battle of the Somme in July 1916. Bertie Cundy had been fined for riding his bicycle without lights in 1913, but he went on to achieve distinction in the early days of the Battle of the Somme, winning the military medal for his extreme bravery. Arthur Wade, a pre-war gardener at Learmoney Towers, was another local man killed in the first week of the First Battle of the Somme in the frontline trenches near Albert when the Germans launched a major attack. George Hughes was posted to Gallipoli, where he was twice hospitalised with illness. Later on the Somme battlefields, he was killed. His body was never found, and he is commemorated on the Villa Bretonneau Memorial. Harry Cottrell was another casualty of the Battle of the Somme in July 1916. He was reported wounded, then missing after an intense enemy bombardment. And he is remembered on the Thiepval Memorial, along with 73,000 other names. Stanley Mason was killed when his Lewis gun team was knocked out at Delville Wood on its way up to the front line on the Somme battlefield in September 1916. As a missing man, he is also recorded on the Thiepval Memorial. James Cutsavis served in the Ypres salient in Flanders in mid-1916, was then posted to the Somme battlefield and died under intensive shell fire. His body was never recovered, and he is also named on the Thiepval Memorial. Harold Mole, although wounded, he saved the lives of 2 buried colleagues before being killed on the Somme battlefield. Sadly, his recommendation for a Distinguished Service Medal was never followed through. Harris Hoy, serving in the King's Royal Rifle Corps, was killed in a major attack on his trench position in the Ypres salient when an enemy raiding party entered trench unnoticed in the general confusion of an attack. Alfred Pullen, serving with the Coldstream Guards, was wounded on the Somme in 1917 and died later in the casualty clearing station at Grovetown, where he is buried. Harry Gardner was awarded the Military Medal, serving on the Somme, for conspicuous gallantry in returning 4 times to the scene of action to rescue wounded colleagues and repair the wire defending their trenches. Nathan Cudmore was wounded at Arras in March 1917 after a major raid on the trenches by German aeroplanes and died before he could be repatriated. He was buried in Faubourg-Gamion Cemetery in Arras. George Cudmore, Nathan's older brother, died having been repatriated to recover from wounds sustained on the Somme less than 3 weeks after his brother had died close by in France. Ernest Green was killed by German shelling near Arras. His funeral took place behind the lines, but the location was subsequently lost. He is remembered on the memorials at Arras, St Giles in Colchester, and at West Mersea. Frederick White, at 38, he was over the age for conscription but volunteered anyway. He was one of 6 men from Mersea whose bodies were never found after severe fighting near Arras and who are named on the Arras Memorial. John Howard served with the Essex Regiment and was killed near Arras in April 1916. His body was never found. Even news of his death did not arrive in West Mersea for 5 weeks. He is named on the Arras Memorial. Sidney Wright, another soldier without a grave and named on the memorial at Arras, was one of 3 brothers. The other 2 survived. But Sidney was one of the 2 Mersey men killed on the same day, the other being John Howard. Clifford Farthing served at Ypres and later on the Somme, where he took part in the last major push under intense fire. He was one of 106 reported missing from 207 killed, and is named on the Arras Memorial. Thomas Marriage was wounded in heavy shelling of the trenches around Arras and was evacuated to the military hospital at Étaples. Initially he recovered from a leg amputation